Welcome to the 2025 mid-year book tag. I'm so excited to show you all of the books that I have read this year and just tell you a little bit about them and what I rated them. Now, I've definitely found some really great books this year, and I've also found some books that, just weren't my favorite, but that's okay because everyone has a different opinion, which is why I am just going to put a disclaimer. This is just my opinion. Just because I think these things doesn't mean that you guys will think these things, because books are so broad, and I honestly feel that there is a little something for everybody out there. And with that being said, I'm going to show you all the books that I've read so far from January to July, from the worst to best. And before I start, let me get all these books off of me because it is heavy. So just for some context, I started reading again November 2024, which was last year, and I fell in love with this new hobby of mine. And I gave myself a goal for 2025 to read at least 20 books, and I've actually passed that. I read 21 books and it is barely just July, so I feel very happy with that. At this rate, we may reach 40 books, which is incredible, and I'm honestly so proud of myself. But yes, let's start with the worst rated book, which was My Hero, the Grumpy Firefighter by Betty Cameron. I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars because I just felt like it wasn't really a book. It honestly felt more like a fan fiction. I mean, look how short it is. And because the book was so short, you couldn't really dive too much into the characters' lives. It was also super choppy. Like, one year you were in this girl's summer going from high school to college, and then like the next chapter she was like done with college, and they don't tell you that it's been 4 years. You just have to kind of use the context clues to figure out that it's been that long. And it is an age gap romance, which is not my favorite. And this guy was showing interest in her like right out of high school, which sucks because the backside was the part that really caught my attention. Like, I was really excited to read it. But if you really like short, fast-paced fan fictions, I would recommend that one. Next up is actually Little Woman. Unfortunately, I rated this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It almost makes me feel so bad just because it is a classic. I mean, let's just get this straight. I am very much a romance reader and also a little bit of, mystery and thriller. This book was neither. It just followed around these 4 girls and what really went on in their lives, and I don't know, it was just so slow paced. And there was a part in the end of the book where it just made me really mad. Like, I didn't even want to finish it. It was just because this guy character couldn't marry this one girl, so then he decided to go for somebody very close to that girl. It just made me pretty uncomfortable, which I'm sure a lot of people have their own opinions about that, but that is just mine. Overall, the story was really cute though, and it was really bittersweet once I did finish this book, since it is a longer one. It's over 500 pages. But isn't this copy so beautiful? It's the cloth bound edition with the sprayed edges. Something I'd really like to do in the future is buy the cloth bound editions of classic books, because I think they would just be beautiful to have in my collection. Now, the next book, I expected great things just because of all the reviews that I heard, and I didn't exactly love it, and that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. The first thing that caught me off guard right away was the fact that she does not use quotation marks. So I was having a lot of trouble when it came to who said what, also what was being actually said versus what was in their head. So I had to really concentrate when I was reading this. And the second thing was that I just felt like there was no plot. Like, it was pretty mellow the entire book. I mean, really, to sum it up, it's about a girl and a guy, and no matter what, they're just always gonna be there for each other, which is a cute concept, but wasn't enough for me. Now we've got A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston, and same with the last one, I did expect good things from this because of just how cool and cute that it sounded. And I actually thought it was gonna be rom-com, which is a genre that I love. Then it ended up having a really big part of magical realism, a lot more than I expected, and I didn't really know that going into the book. So then reading, I was just like, well, that doesn't make sense. But I mean, obviously it's a fiction book. But the main character is Elsie, and she ends up somehow in the small town of her favorite novel with all of the characters there. And so obviously she loves to be stuck in this little town. However, she knows she needs to get out soon because she has no contact with anybody, which means that people are gonna start worrying about her along with her other responsibilities. The love interest was really cute in here, but I just really didn't like how at the end, romance books, I feel like it's either supposed to end that, the people ended up together or that they didn't. This was literally both. Yeah, didn't like that. And just one other little small critique about this book is that I felt like some of the connections just weren't there. Like, there were some things that happened, earlier on in the book, and I was waiting for it to explain it in the end, and then it just didn't. So, if anyone's read this book and wants me to go deeper into those connections that I just didn't feel like were there, then let me know in the comments and we could talk about it. Now, this next book is an autobiography slash memoir, and I do not rate those books, but I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it in right here, which is Nora Ephron's I Feel Bad About My Neck and Other Thoughts on Being a Woman. You know, this book really hit my heart. There were so many different conversations and topics that she had covered about how it feels to be a woman. I could relate to a lot of things that she said, so definitely make sure to make my highlights in this book. And yeah, I just feel like she talked about a lot of things that, you know, women don't really discuss, which just made, I'm sure, a lot of people that have read this book just feel like connected, and that other people do, you know, go through the same struggles that they go through, so they're not alone. And I would highly recommend this book if you just feel like you need to be seen and just a little bit of motivation and empowering. Next up, we have Pickleballers by Ilana Long, and I was excited to pick up this book because I personally love playing pickleball. So this was actually my first sporty rom-com that I've read, and I would really only recommend this book if you like pickleball or sporty rom-coms, because besides that, it just wasn't really that great of a book to me because everything was just so predictable. Like, once I read the first couple of chapters, I could pretty much predict the whole entire book, and I was correct. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, the final tournament that goes on in this book, like, I was locked in. Like, I was still getting anxious about it, even though, like, I knew it was gonna happen. But yeah, the book is about Meg. Her husband just left her, so she needs a little hobby to just kind of lift her spirits, and that is pickleball. She finds this little pickleball community. She loves them. They all play on these courts every single day, but the courts are now being threatened to be taken down because of another project in their community. And so she decides to join a pickle smash competition to raise money for the courts. Now, the love interest was Ethan, and I just did not like their chemistry. It was just weird. Like, at first I was like, oh my god, you know, like, I love this. But then their communication was so bad. So like the whole entire book, it was them just like running away from each other and then coming back and then running away from each other and then coming back. And it was just like, make up your mind. Now, I actually don't have a copy of this next book, but it is I'm Glad My Mom Died. And again, didn't give this one a rating because I don't rate memoirs or autobiographies. But this book, like, oh my goodness, it really hit. I didn't expect for it to be so intense. Like, there was times in the book where my jaw actually dropped. This was a fun read because I actually read it with my boyfriend, so I would read some chapters aloud, and then when I was tired of reading, then I would give it to him and then he would read the chapters aloud. So we were going through it together, and it was really fun to do that because then we were able to actually debrief the book. It was just so crazy to see this child actress that we all loved and endeared so much go through all of this trauma behind the scenes that we had no idea about. So I would recommend this book to anyone anyways, but especially if you grew up watching like Sam and Cat or iCarly, things we never got over. And look how just beautiful this book is, okay? This is actually part of a series, and I wasn't interested in reading the other two books in the series, which I'll dive into a little bit after I explain what the book is about. But it basically starts off with this new girl in town, and she's having a lot of trouble basically fitting in because her twin sister lives in this town, and her twin sister is like, ugh, she's horrendous. The worst person ever. Everybody hates her. Like, she's not even allowed in so many different buildings because of the destruction that she's caused. So it's definitely hard for her to, you know, maneuver around in the beginning because, you know, she's actually Naomi, but people think that she's her twin sister, Tina. Something I enjoyed about this book is just how crazy it was. I honestly haven't read anything like this before. And the love story, like, I really enjoyed it. It was chef's kiss, spicy. The guy took such good care of her. And there was definitely some crazy plot twists in it. But one thing that I can say that I didn't like, which is why I did not continue reading this series, is the brother. He was just like, gave me the ick. His name was Nash, and he was just constantly trying to step into this relationship. Like, he wanted his brother's girl so bad. And so like anytime, you know, like Naomi and then this guy had like gotten into something, then like, you know, his brother would just come swooping in, be there to save the day and be there for her. Like, no, that's weird. And so the second book in the series is actually about him, and I'm not interested in reading that because I don't really care about you. We've officially moved up to the 4.5 stars and higher. So although I may have, you know, little critiques about these books, I pretty much enjoyed these a lot. Next up, we have Ricochet by Krista and Becky Ritchie, which is a part of the Addicted series. I love the Addicted series. I'm always gonna love the Addicted series. Now, so far I've read half of it, and this is the lowest rated book from there. Doesn't mean it wasn't good at all. I just feel like it was honestly pretty calm compared to the other ones. The two main characters of this book are going through different addictions, and so one is in rehab and the other one is trying to face them on her own. And so so we mainly just follow Lily in this book and just the things that she is dealing with, how she's getting through them, her thoughts, her feelings. And the addiction that she has is just not one that a lot of people really take seriously, and so being able to see how it really affects this person's life is honestly really sad and powerful. So we're gonna be talking about the other books that I have read in this series later on because they are up there. So I actually got this next book as a blind date with the book, which I actually have a video fully dedicated to it on my channel, so if you're interested in it, you should definitely go and watch it because it was a lot of fun. And this one is The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. This was a very fun read. It had the close proximity trope, as our main character, Rosie, has a key to her friend's apartment and she goes to it because she is in need. Her apartment, something bad happens there, so she just goes away to her friend's apartment because she knows the friend is away on her honeymoon. But turns out her friend is actually letting her cousin, which is, shoot, what is his name? Yes, that's right, Lucas. She's letting her cousin Lucas from Spain stay at her apartment. So now we got two people at this apartment. You see where we're getting. Rosie's actually a struggling writer right now. She's having a lot of trouble actually thinking of new ideas for her new book. And so Lucas agrees to take her on all of these experimental dates to kind of get the gears in her brain going and help her with her new romance novel. Now, similarly with A Novel Love Story, this was definitely a slow burn, but I really enjoyed every part of it, except for, you know, in the novel Love Story, how, you know, it kind of ended as like they weren't together and then they were together. This is exactly how that book was. And I just don't like those type of books. I feel like, you know, you just need to pick one ending and stick with it. And just the way that Lucas was just not really good at communicating with her didn't make me the happiest, Lucas. But yes, this one was a 4.8 for me. Now we got Emma of 83rd Street, which is another 4.8 stars. Not only did this book have the friends to lovers trope, which I love, it also had the close proximity as they were neighbors, which is also something I love. Just like the last one, it was definitely a slow burn, but once the main characters finally got together, it was just like there was just so much built up tension between them, and then once it was finally released, it just felt like weights lifted off of my shoulders. Now we've reached the part of the video where we'll be talking about my 10 favorite books of 2025 so far. In 10th place being Emily Henry's Happy Place. I can't explain to you how much I needed to read this book in the exact moment that I read it. And that is because I was kind of going through a part of my life where, you know, like I'm 20 now and I'm just not too sure exactly what it is I want to do with myself yet. And I know a lot of people are like that, and it was really a good reminder to see somebody going through that, since that's definitely something our main character Harriet is going through. In this book, Harriet and Wynne have been together for a very long time and have even created their friend group around them. But they actually end up separating just because their lives were way too different. But they don't tell their friends yet because they just don't want to hurt them. Turns out one of the friends is getting married, and so they have both of them come to their happy place, which is this beautiful house that they grew up going to all the time. And since Harriet and Wynne's friends still think they're together, they have to pretend that they're together because they just don't want to ruin this amazing weekend for their friends. So kind of like enemies to lovers mixed with fake relationships. I gave this one a 4.8, and this was actually the first Emily Henry book that I read of hers, and which made me realize that I need to read all of her books ASAP. In 9th place, we do have another Emily Henry book, which is Beach Read. Now, I've read quite a few books now, and I've never come close to crying. This one actually made me so emotional, like I was tearing up, and I had to stop reading it because I didn't want to start bawling my eyes out. Now, it is very grief heavy, so definitely a disclaimer because I didn't know that going into it, but the main character, January, is going to stay at her dead father's beach house, trying to just clean it up so she can sell it, but the next door neighbor actually remembers her from school, and you know, they get talking. They were kind of like rivals, as they're both kind of successful writers, but they were both in a slump, so they decide to actually switch genres, and whoever's book comes out on top, I guess, like wins. And so just like the last book, not only is it their love story journey, but it's also her own solo journey as she's just trying to get used to her new normal well with her father who's passed away. This one also a 4.8. Surprise! In 8th place we have another Emily Henry story, which is Funny Story. This one was definitely the most fun to read out of the 3 books I read from Emily Henry. So if you like a good rom-com, I would recommend this one. And this one was just crazy. I mean, let me just read the back for you. Okay, so Daphne has a fiance named Peter, and they break up because Peter is in love with his best friend Petra. Keep in mind, Petra actually has a boyfriend and his name is Miles. So Petra leaves Miles for Peter because she loves him too. And so since Daphne and Miles were kind of just, you know, left in the dust, they end up rooming together and then fake dating. And it's so funny because it's literally Daphne dating her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex. A little bit of a tongue twister, but a bit of fun. The only reason why I didn't bump this up to the 5-star is because this guy Miles had a little bit of communication issues, and there was one scene that specifically frustrated me, along with a lot of other people. I mean, I've seen them talk about it, but just because of that one situation, I did have to bump it down like a tiny bit. However, I still loved this book so much. In 7th place, we have Listen for the Lie, which was another 4.8 for me. As Stephen King explains it, it's a world-class whodunit. There's a small-town murder and it kind of goes cold because nobody has enough evidence to prove that the girl's best friend killed her. But then there's this podcaster who goes through cold cases to try to solve them himself, and so he goes into this little small town and tries to solve it. And in the end, we're able to find out who actually killed this girl. And I love a book that you cannot expect who the killer is. This was definitely that. Because when I figured out, I was like, wait, I didn't even think of that. Which was definitely a lot of fun to read. So if you're interested in murder mysteries, you should read this one. Sitting at 6th place is Kiss the Sky, another book in the Addicted series. Now, the main characters in this is actually one of the sisters and her boyfriend, and the romance was just so good. And I really wish I could have given it a 4.8 because if it was solely just based on the romance, it would be definitely a 5-star. But I had so much anxiety reading this book actually, because there's like this group in this book and it's 6 of them and they are actually kind of famous, and now they are doing a reality television show on them to basically just make them look terrible on camera. And so there was just so many different things that were like published of them that just went against their will, and it just seriously had me on my toes, stomach turning, head hurting. Yeah, so I couldn't quite give it that 5-star. In 5th place, we do have another book from the Addicted series, which is Hot House Flower. This one follows the 3rd Calloway sister along with her romance journey. It was a bit of an age gap, not that big of an age gap, but the problem was when it occurred, the 2 authors said that once they had made the first book, they had no intentions of connecting these 2 characters, but then it kind of just happened. And so a lot of fans weren't very happy with it. And let me tell you, I was not looking forward to reading this book. Like, I was holding off on it for so long just because I just was scared to read it. But then once I did, you know, I was able to accept it because, well, one, it's a fiction book, okay? Second of all, he just treats her very well, and technically they did nothing illegal. I'm not gonna go too much into it because, like, if you know, you know. But something I did really like about this book was it didn't give me too much anxiety, and also it was kind of split in half. So like the first half focused mainly on the girl's life, second half focused on the guy's life, and it was just like they were both going through their own journeys and then weren't letting the other person stop what they wanted. Once they finally got together, like, I was actually like, yes, because it's been such a slow burn. There's been tension going on between the 2 characters for a few books now. And this was a 4.8, which concludes all of the 4-star rated books. Moving on to the 5-star books. Don't worry, this is the last book in the Addicted series that I have rated on here, but this one is Addicted for Now. I should definitely mention that I will deem a book 5 stars when I don't have much critique on them or any critique on them, and I cannot put the book down for anything. Like, I will risk only getting a few hours of sleep because I want to finish this book. I remember sweating so bad from this book because when the plot hit, oh my goodness. It was something that we were hoping wasn't gonna happen, and then it happened. And once it finally did, it was just them trying to cope with this new change in their life, which was a very big change. I don't want to spoil anything because if you do read this series, this is definitely like a big spoiler. But yes, this one goes in my 5-star category. For number 3, we have I'll Look For You Everywhere by Cameron Capello. I've honestly never heard of another booktuber speaking about this book, and I'm like, oh my god, it's actually so good. After I finished this book, I actually went to Goodreads to look at the reviews, and they were not as hot. They did not agree with me. But this is another friends to lovers / close proximity. A along with the best friend's brother kind of love story. There was so much hurt in this book. Both of the main characters had went through so incredibly much throughout their childhood, and they just have not quite healed from it. There was a lot of talk about how the book ended. A lot of people didn't like how the book ended, but I personally like how the book ended. It made a lot of sense to me, and even though, yes, of course, when I flipped the last page and I was like, that's it, I was still able to give this book a 5-star. Now, second in place that I gave a 5-star is Five Survived by Holly Jackson. Since getting back into reading, this was my first mystery thriller kind of book, and oh my goodness, I stayed up so late reading this. Like, I had plans going to sleep at, you know, like 10 p.m. I ended up going to sleep at like 3 a.m. And even when I finally found a spot that I could stop in the book, I accidentally let my eyes linger to the next page and I saw this one specific word. But whatever, I put down the book, I, you know, went to the bathroom, took off my makeup, you know, did whatever I needed to do to, you know, get ready for bed. And then it just hit me. That one word, I knew what it meant. I needed to finish this book tonight. So I ran back to my bed. I finished the entire book and it was just so good. I did make a short video explaining what the book is about. It's 6 friends that go on a road trip, but then they end up lost in the middle of the woods. It's pitch black. Suddenly their tires are popping. They hear shots in the woods. They are obviously in danger. Nobody has service to get help, and they don't want to leave the RV that they're in because of the danger that's outside. So they have to survive the night. But as you can see, only 5 of them survive. I 110% recommend this book. And let me tell you, I really just did not expect the ending. And this leads us to my #1 book of the year. The book that I pretty much recommend to anybody when they are interested in mysteries, thrillers. Which is funny because actually my top 2 books are mystery and thriller, and that is not my favorite genre. With all that being said, it is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I know there's a lot of controversy about the author. I actually read this book not knowing anything about it. So from here on out, I'm not interested in reading any more of her books. This was really the only book I read of hers. But right from the beginning, it grasps your attention. Like, the first sentence is literally, I hear the crack of his skull before the splattering of blood reaches me. Like, oh. And that's when I knew it was already going to be a really good book. Now, if you don't know what the book is about, this writer, Verity, got into a really tragic accident, which left her unable to do pretty much anything. She has a round-the-clock nurse. Her husband and her child are constantly helping her around because she cannot talk, she cannot move, she cannot think. She's basically what they label her as, a vegetable. So she was never able to finish the book series. So her husband finds a new writer that has a similar writing style as her, which is the main character. Her name is Lowen. So some sparks fly between Lowen and the husband as she is staying at their house. And yes, he's with Verity still, but just because Verity isn't really much anymore, you know, he's been longing for a connection like this for a long time. But Lowen is actually convinced that Verity is faking it. She finds a manuscript talking about the terrible things that she's done in her life. She swears that she's seen Verity do some crazy things that she would not be able to do unless she was faking this. And I was able to finish this book within 2 days. I remember the second day that I picked it up, I was like, you know what, I'm only gonna read probably like, you know, 20 pages and then go to bed. But then I ended up reading the whole entire book and I was just sweating so bad. I remember like I had to call my boyfriend about it and tell him everything that was going on because I just needed moral support. I was rushing to my mom's room and telling her because I just, oh my goodness. I recommend Verity. Now, if you guys are still here, I would love to hear what your favorite book is so I can add it to my TBR. And with all that being said, those were all of the books that I have read so far in 2025. I do plan to make a second video of this at the end of the year so we could have a full recap and I could explain the books that I have read from August to December. Thank you so much for watching. I hope some of these books gave you some inspiration to pick one up or not, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.